In the beginning, there was God. God was thinking. As God was thinking, God placed a thumb before a void and moved it beyond that void. And do you know what happened? There was a pop. And out of that pop, there came the rock. And the rock was one with God, and God was one with the rock. God laughed heartily, and as God laughed, there came more pops, and with the pops, from the void there came more rocks. Each rock was unique, and they scattered far and wide. God smiled at the noise of the rocks as they popped. The void was no longer. There was only God, the pops, and the rocks, and everything else came from those. God felt the happiness that the rocks brought, and brought together a collection of them to form a symbol of that happiness. The symbol was beautiful. The symbol was so beautiful that God needed to do something more with it. God liked the bumpiness of the symbol. It made God think of an elephant. God didn't know what an elephant was yet, but God liked the sound of what God saw. Then God burped, and said, "I just did a Judy." Of course, God didn't know yet who Judy was, but God liked the sound of what God heard. Out of the burp came a carrot. God looked at the carrot and laughed. The carrot reminded God of God. That God could be seen in something so simple as a carrot. Liquid formed as God laughed. The liquid fell and filled the crevices of the symbol, and God had a thought. God heard popping. God heard the rocks pop. There was energy. There was excitement. God had a thought. I wonder, can any of this carrot be taken away and it still be a carrot? And God had another thought. I wonder what else can be created. What else can be popped? What else can be laughed? And what else can be burped in my image? The popping became louder, and the excitement became greater as the pop rocks that were still spread far and wide began to realize their potential and collide. All of the different combinations of all of the different rocks, all of the colliding, all of the popping, and all of the energy created many different forms and many different vessels. Trees that produced max. Beans that taste of meat. Vegetation of many varieties that grew both above the ground and in the ground. Spiders, whose legs twitch even after they have fallen off. Cats who didn't like dogs. Chickens who go home to roost. Turnips, and elephants. When God saw the elephant, God knew what it was. And God said, "It's frickin' awesome, that is." Then, something caught God's eye. As the rocks collided, there was a reaction unlike any reaction before. From those poppings came something that would fuck up the awesomeness more than anything else that God had seen. But still, God was filled with whimsy and a love for these creatures, and said, "Hello, gorgeous." Amongst these creatures, there would be no two the same. There could only be one perfect 248. People began to forget the popping and the rocking. They couldn't remember which vegetation grew above the ground and which vegetation grew below. Their chickens no longer came home to roost. Their widgets were no longer compatible, and they did not recognize the full worth of the beans that taste like meh tea. It took a long time for people to remember where the popping came from, what the popping meant. Some people remembered on their own, and when they did, one by one, the rocks popped. And there was popping. And there was rocking. And there were pop rocks. And God burped. At the same time, God said, "Naked mole rat." God chuckled. And God said, "I just did a Judy." Only now, God knows who Judy is, and laughs heartily.